we're back. My screen is moving. Is yours moving? Does everything look good to you?
Yeah, everything looks fine on my end.
Amazing. It's just driving me crazy. But, of course. Welcome everyone back to my top 25 college football teams heading into the 2025 season. I am obviously talking about all things Michigan today, but I just want to say that this series is going to release by order of my top 25. So I'll have the team that is going to be first is going to be on August, or team that's 25th is going to be on August 1st. And then we're going to work our way down to the first week of the season. So that's how this is going to release. So I can't spill any secrets on when Michigan is going to be released. However, it will obviously be in the top 25. And a lot of people that know me and have seen like certain videos that I make, I'm like a Michigan fan in a lot of ways. Like Michigan was my team growing up. I think the Michigan fight song is college football, in my personal opinion. I had a Michigan starter jacket. I mean, all the things. My favorite color was yellow. Like the whole thing makes me a quasi Michigan fan. And so, anyways, I'm super excited to talk to you about Michigan, get your thoughts and all the cool things that are happening. Before I pass it off to you, everything that connects to you will be in the comment description below. So if anybody wants to click on you to get more of your content, to learn more about your space and what you're doing, it will be there. So now that I'm done blabbing, I would love to know more about you. If you just want to introduce yourself and whatever you want to tell us, we will gladly accept it.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Eric. Everyone knows me by Kinetic. I lifelong University of Michigan fan, born in Michigan, lived here as a kid, moved out of state for about 20 years. I lived in a couple years in California, then for almost 20 years in Tennessee. I now live in Michigan again. So I spent a large part of my life in SEC country.
Yeah.
But like I'm a Michigan guy. Okay. Also a Minnesota Vikings fan. That's how I knew you through a mutual friend.
Rap. Yeah, Vocal Bite. Yeah, shout out to Vocal Bite.
But yeah, so just under a year ago, I got in touch with a guy that I used to watch on YouTube, Maze Madman on YouTube, and we just started talking, and we talked football all the time. And then he was like, somewhere around end of September, early October, he invited me to come on his show, his weekly show, as a co-host. And I started doing the Monday night shows with him. We also started doing post-game shows every Saturday after the Michigan games. And then just through that, I kind of branched out and networked with the guys over at Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers Network, with a guy, Johnny Olden Jr., who's got his own YouTube channel, and Darren Talks Ball, and they just kind of welcomed me into the Michigan content creator circle. And I've just been doing everything I can anytime I'm available to help those guys out, learn from them. I've been on Rap Show with the Minnesota Vikings, a couple Vikings channels like Purple Daily and stuff, and just trying to get my feet wet and learn the podcasting business. I've come to find that I really enjoy it. I don't know how good I am at it, but I really enjoy it. So.
Okay. I love that. Well, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. And then the other thing is too, is I feel like Michigan, I can't wait to just like get your opinion on Michigan as a whole, like where the program is, because I feel like national championship happens. You're coming off that high, obviously new coach. Last year happens. 8-4 is probably not the Michigan standard, if you will.
No.
However, people say that. And then now it's like new year, new season, freshman quarterback that everyone is very aware of. How are you feeling as a fan? Like, how are you feeling? What is the vibe like
I really love it. I don't want to go too deep if we don't have the time for it, but it actually goes back a little bit farther than just the national championship to really understand like how the fandom feels right now. Because we were historically a great program. And again, if I'm going too far, too deep, let me know. But we had a coach, Lloyd Carr, who was great in the 90s and early 2000s. And right around the mid 2000s, he started to he was just getting past his time. He ended up that the year that we had the App State upset was, I believe, his last year. And we entered some dark times after that because we tried to go a different direction away from the Michigan tradition. We brought Rich Rod over from West Virginia. He tried to install the new at the time spread option offense that just didn't work at Michigan. So we had some bad years there, which coincided with the rise of Ohio State, our chief rival, with Jim Tressel and then Urban Meyer. We then went to Brady Hoke, where we actually, when we hired Brady Hoke following Rich Rod, we actually tried to get Jim Harbaugh. This was when he was at Stanford, and he ended up going to San Francisco instead. So we went to Brady Hoke, had a couple years with Brady Hoke, had success the first year, and then it just kind of went downhill after that. Because when Rich Rod came in, you had him trying to run a spread style offense with Lloyd Carr's pro players that he had recruited. Then we get rid of Rich Rod after 2 or 3 years, and Brady Hoke comes in, and now he's trying to go back to a pro style, but now he's got all these spread style guys that Rich Rod had brought in. So it just was a dark couple of years. And then when Jim Harbaugh did come back to Michigan, his alma mater, in 2015 from the NFL, he was having to really rebuild the program from the ground up. He was having to rebuild everything about the program. And he had to build it up, and we started having success, but we couldn't get over the hump and beat Ohio State.
Right.
And a large part of so that changed in 2021. And the change from that was in large part, and I know, our rivals want to try to conflate it with the Connor Stallions thing that's going on. But what really happened was he had a defensive coordinator that Jim was very loyal to, Don Brown, who was a good defensive coordinator, but he was very stuck in his ways and didn't adapt to the modern football. And he really needed to make a change there, and he resisted getting rid of Don Brown for a long time. But after the disaster of the 2020 season, he finally got fired Don Brown, and he reached out to his brother, the coach of the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, John Harbaugh, and he's like, hey, I need to get a new defensive coordinator. We need to revamp the defense. I really want to go with what you guys are doing. Who do you have that I can bring in? And John gave him 2 options at the time that were proteges of Wink Martindale's the amoeba defense that got popularized with the Ravens, with Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Terrence Cody, Ed Reed, that whole defense that they had. That was Wink Martindale's defense, and he had 2 proteges that were coming up that were on the Ravens staff. And John told him, I've got this guy Mike McDonald, I've got this guy Jesse Minter. You can have either one of them. Jim went ahead and got Mike McDonald to come in for the 2021 season. He installed the Ravens defense, which was directly opposed in a great matchup to Ryan Day's offense. The entire idea was to come in, revamp the defense, and provide a bad matchup to Ohio State. And it worked. That was the year we had Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo and all those guys. And that was when it really turned around. The only losses we had that year were we had a bad loss that year to Michigan State. It wasn't a bad loss.
Was that the punt?
Yeah. And that was the game that Kenneth Walker went off. Right before he got drafted. So, and then we lost in the playoffs. But that was the year we finally got over the hump with Ohio State. Wink Martindale then left the Ravens, so Mike McDonald went back to the NFL after 1 year, and so Jim then went to Jesse Minter, the other guy that John had offered up, who had instead went to Vanderbilt for a year as a defensive coordinator. So he came in to run the same defense with his own little twist on it. And that was where we got that next year in 22 and 23 was when J.J. McCarthy started. And that's when we really started to build on what Mike McDonald had done with Jesse Minter. And that's where we had the nice run, and we've beaten Ohio State. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you feel like, as a Michigan fan, knowing the history makes this moment better?
Yes.
Because I'm like that as a Texas fan, right? Like, I remember 2012, 2014, 2017, where I'm just kind of like, are we ever going to do anything? Like, this is so bad. Right. So I totally get the kind of the like, oh gosh, what is this? And then now so for you're thinking, because of where you've been, being in this moment makes this moment a little bit more enjoyable.
Right. The whole turnaround from 21 up to winning the national championship, it was beautiful. It was almost poetic in a way, with the whole Jim Harbaugh coming back, resurrecting his alma mater,
Yeah.
going to the brink of almost getting fired in 2020, and then
Yes.
turning it around by reaching out to his brother and saying, "Hey, I need a guy." And it's just the whole connection with Jack Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh. Like John was here so often on the sidelines for our games too, and it was a storybook. The whole JJ McCarthy. I don't know how much rap went into this with you with JJ McCarthy, but he grew up an Ohio State fan. He was recruited by Ohio State, but then they told him that they weren't going to be taking a quarterback commit until after the summer period. And then they turned around and took Kyle McCord literally like a week later. So JJ got a chip on his shoulder, felt like he had been lied to, and then immediately committed to Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines and didn't lose to Ohio State for 3 years.
Okay.
And it's almost storybook, right?
Okay.
But then the problem that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the problem we ran into last year was, okay, so Michigan, to a lot of people outside of Michigan, has always had kind of a arrogance to them, right? That they feel like they're better than a lot of schools.
I mean, Texas gets this same kind of.
Well, so like Michigan tried to do things the right way as far as like, the worst kept secret ever of, that for years the teams in the SEC were paying players. Ohio State did it too, under the table, all that kind of stuff, right? Michigan wouldn't do that stuff. Even when NIL became quasi legal,
right? They weren't.
Michigan wouldn't do it.
They just started
because it was still against the rules to induce players to commit to your school with payments, right? So what little NIL we did utilize was to keep players that were already here, but we wouldn't pay new players coming out. So for the past 2 or 3 recruiting cycles before last year, Jim Harbaugh, he just didn't try to recruit top 50 and top 100 kids because those recruitments always began and ended with how much are you going to be able to pay me? And that was kind of what happened with Bryce Underwood. He was a top kid, lived 20 minutes from campus, but there was no point in trying to recruit him because we didn't have the NIL support to be able to offer it to him.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons. I don't know if you ever saw the thing with Bryce Underwood where he went on Crane and Company and kind of threw some shade at Michigan, right?
Yeah.
And so that was because he felt, to my understanding, disrespected that he wasn't recruited by Jim Harbaugh harder than he was. But when Sharon Moore became head coach, he came into a situation where he became head coach because of the national title run in February, had to put his staff together, which took until middle of March, and then took over recruiting. At that point, he had a team that had not had a ton of quality recruiting done for the last few cycles. There were some gems in the recruiting classes, but the depth just wasn't there. So when he came into the team last year, we were really, really thin at quarterback. We were really thin at wide receiver. There just wasn't a whole lot of depth.
There wasn't a lot of depth
on the line on offense and defense, which had been the strength of the previous few years. Mm-hmm. And so Sharon Moore came into a situation where he just had to try to do with what he had. It wasn't until last summer when it became legal to pay high school recruits to come in. There was a court case that happened last year against the NCAA that they lost. Yeah. And that's when we got into the NIL game.
So now that you're in the NIL game, recruiting really picked up. You got some great guys. Mm-hmm. As we head into the season, I think everyone's talking about Underwood, right? Because obviously he's the quarterback, he's leading the class. How else does it look for you? How like what is success this year? How are you now like transitioning, I guess, to this new world of football or this new stage of football now that you all are in the game, right? Now that you all are kind of like, all right, cool, that's the game. Yeah. We're going to do our thing. What does success this year look like for you? Like what expectations do you all have as fans for the team this year?
So this year, I mean, with the turnaround with recruiting last year, we were able to finish with a top 10 class, but they're still coming in as freshmen. We got a few transfers, so the general feel in the community seems to be that 10-2. Some guys are at 9-3, are kind of like, that's where we think we'll be. Anything less would be unacceptable. The way that I look at it is, if you ask me to make a prediction as far as our ceiling, our floor, and what I think we're going to do, I look at it as our ceiling. I look at our schedule and I don't see any game that's not winnable, right? So if everything were to fall exactly right, I think our ceiling would be 12-0 undefeated. However,
if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and don't forget to turn on those notification bells so you don't miss any new videos when they release. And if you feel like it, leave me a comment in the comment section below, because we all know by now I love engaging in the comment section below.
I also look at the floor, and I look at what games, in college football, any game, there's a 5% chance that you could lose any game on any given week, right? But outside of that base chance of anything could happen, I really see potentially 5 games that are losable. So I would say that our floor would be 7-5. And the idea that any team can go undefeated, that's a tough thing to do in any year, let alone with a true freshman quarterback. So I think that it's most likely that there's going to be some game somewhere that, he makes a mistake, something comes at him too fast, he's not able to process it immediately because maybe he's seeing it for the first time, and it's a tight enough game that mistake costs us the game. I expect us to probably go 10-2 if I were to make a prediction.
What do you think the strength is of your team this year?
I think the strength of our team is going to be, in a lot of cases, what it's been since 2020. Obviously, we have a great weapon at quarterback, but with being a true freshman, I don't think we're going to lean on him to win us the games.
Right.
I would say that our strength is going to be on offense. It's going to be our running back room. We brought in Alabama transfer Justice Haynes. We've also got second-year player Jordan Marshall. Those two together, it's a great 2-punch combo. And then we've got a really great, and I'm a little biased because I'm really close with this guy and his family and his father, but we've got a really a speedster running back at running back 3, Micah Kapana. This kid is amazing, and he provides he's a little bit smaller, but he provides a different skill set to come in and complement the other 2 guys and really get out, out of the backfield on passing down, screen plays, and just being able to utilize them. So having those 3 guys with some really good depth beyond them as well, I'm really confident in our run game. And then on the defense, we really reloaded as far as depth on the defense. Now, we're not going to be able to replace Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson 1-for-1. We don't have that
not
high
this year
end.
Anyway.
No,
right?
But
not right now.
but in a lot of ways, it's similar to the transition from 21 to 22, where we lost, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, a lot of those guys. We didn't replace them with 1-for-1 high end talent, but we had the depth and the rotation to sort of fill the gap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we're really deep on defensive line. We're really deep in the secondary, I think. And we've got some really good linebackers with Jayshawn Barham, Ernest Hausman, sort of topping that depth chart, but some depth behind them: Cole Sullivan, Jimmy Rolder. So I think it's going to be our defense. Wink Martindale is our defensive coordinator now, the guy that originated that defense, and I just think he's gonna have them ready to really carry the load for the team again.
So what would be then a weakness or a concern that you're thinking about as you head into the season?
I think our biggest weakness, and this isn't a knock on the guys we have there, is our wide receiver room. We were very thin at wide receiver room last year. We lost one of our top guys from last year, Tyler Morris, to the transfer portal. We brought in Donovan McCulley from Indiana. Brought in a guy from the Northeast. I forget specifically what school, but Anthony Simpson. But we didn't really get the high end transfers coming in. We did get some good, freshman recruits. Andrew Marsh, I think, is a freshman that'll see some playing time in his freshman year. Jamar Browder, Jacob Washington both came in last year's group. But again, they need time to really, get into the program. And yeah. So I think that's the thinnest part of the team. And then I think a slightly less glaring weakness is going to be two things. It'll be obviously a true freshman at quarterback, which Bryce Underwood is out of this world for where he's at. I mean, he's 6'4", 230, just an incredible athlete. I think he's going to be able to do things that most true freshmen can't, but he's still a true freshman.
Yep.
Having to adapt to the speed of the game of everybody. Everybody on the field is as good as the best player on a team that he faced in high school,
Right.
So I just think that there's going to be difficulties there. And we brought in Chip Lindsey as a new offensive coordinator. So we've got a true freshman and a first-year install on a new offensive scheme. So
Okay.
I think those are our weaknesses.
I have so many questions I want to ask, but I think you might answer
absolutely.
this here in a minute. What is the schedule? Like, what game on your schedule are you kind of circling and you're wondering, like, I want to see how we play this game. I'm interested in this game.
So there's sort of two that are interesting outside of the rivalries. I mean, obviously rivalries, anything can happen with a rivalry game,
Right.
Week 2 at Oklahoma is going to be a big sort of a tell of how the season's going to go. If we're able to go in there with a true freshman into Norman, Oklahoma and pull out a win, I think that's a great indicator that we're going to have a great season.
Okay.
It's going to be a tough test. I think that's probably the most likely loss on the roster or on the schedule. And I don't think even if it's a loss, it's going to be a really big loss. I think it'll be a pretty close game. But I do think that's going to be the most likely loss on the schedule. But the other one that's really interesting is USC. I don't necessarily think USC is going to be a great team this year. Looking at what they did last year. However, there is a history of Michigan and really a lot of the Big Ten teams not having a great time when they travel out west to the West Coast and being able to pull off a win. And that game comes in, I want to say it's week 7. So it's right about the midpoint of the season. So it's like, where are we going to be as a program midway through the season? What's Bryce Underwood's progress going to look like at that point? And then you got the West Coast trip of all, so that's a really interesting one and potentially a trap game, I think.
And because that was the next question, is a trap game. Because I think like Michigan's schedule is interesting to me in the sense that when you look at it at first go, you're kind of like, okay, this isn't that bad. But then when you look at where they have to go and where they're traveling to, you're kind of like, oh, I can kind of see, something going south here potentially. So I hear you. And then I'll ask the question, if there was one game this season that you could win against a rival and, you just have to win that one, and it would be the one game you won all season, what game would that be and why?
I'm pretty sure you'll get the same answer from any Michigan fan. It's going to be the Ohio State game. We got them in Ann Arbor this year, and I think if we beat them for a 5th year in a row, it's gonna completely break their fan base. It's just any Michigan fan is going to tell you, if we can only have one win and we get to choose which one it would be, it's the last game of the year for us.
Yeah, I will be honest. When I typed that question out, there's some schools where I was like, oh, I know the answer. Oh, I know the answer. So I love that. So if you could have one player in college football be on your team, who would you pick and why? You can pick anyone from college football.
So I'm going to actually give a shout out to a buddy of mine that he calls into all of our shows all the time. He's really intelligent. He follows recruiting. I mean, he's incredibly knowledgeable about recruiting. And the guy that he is I'm going to shout out to my guy Juju. If you asked him if we could get one player, he would tell you it's wide receiver Cam Coleman from Auburn.
Oh, okay.
6'3" wide receiver, athletic, fast, able to go up and get the contested catches. And like I said earlier, wide receiver room's our biggest weakness. Yeah. So if I could pick one player off of any team to put on ours, it would be Cam Coleman from Auburn.
I was wondering if you were going to, go with the JJ. I was like, there's no way he's actually going to go Ohio State here, is there?
No, I mean, listen, I
better
respect,
not do this.
I respect Jeremiah Smith big time. I 100%. He's an incredible generational talent. Yeah. But he's not like the fastest wide receiver, right? He's not. I mean, he's very good, very
No,
good.
I 100%.
But what we
I know what you're
really
saying.
need is a speedster wide receiver, just
Yeah.
that burner. That and like I said, my guy Juju knows more about recruiting than almost anybody I know,
You're
and
going with him.
yeah, I'm gonna trust
Okay.
his thoughts on that. So Cam Coleman would be the pick.
I love that. Is there anything else that we should know as we watch Michigan this year that maybe we didn't talk about, or maybe something that you all are talking about a ton? As you know, it's literally really close. As of this recording, we're really close to things starting. Is there anything that you all are talking about in the space, getting ready for fall ball or whatever they're calling it these days? I don't know the names, but how are you all feeling as a fan base? Like, is there anything that's top of mind?
I think the biggest things that we sort of talked about, just year two with Wink. Like last year, I was always a Wink fan. When we hired Wink Martindale, I was happy because not even being a Ravens fan, but I loved watching those defenses, that Ray Lewis defense. I loved watching that defense. And so I was a huge fan when we got Wink. I was so excited. But when he came in the start of last year, Wink hasn't been in college ball for 20 plus years.
Fair.
And he had to adapt to the college game. And you really saw him do that halfway, about the second half of the season. He came in and he's in this mode that he had to have a super complex defense to be able to confuse the offense and all that. And he really could have just simplified a lot of it. And he said this in interviews that that's what he realized halfway through the season. So I am so excited to see year two with a year number two with Wink and his version of the system, and a lot of the guys that were returning, their second year in the system. I'm just so excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Chip Lindsey on the offense. Earlier I said it's a little bit of a weakness, and that's mostly because it's a year one install, but it's not going to be drastically different from Michigan, from their traditional offenses in part. If you go back and watch Chip Lindsey's offenses from North Carolina and his previous stops, his run scheme is very much Michigan's run scheme. It's gap based, assignment based. It's a lot of power, a lot of duo. It's very similar. So he's going to be able to maintain that aspect of Michigan tradition, but he's also going to be able to open it up. He was the guy that was the head coach for Drake May in college, and he's the one that opened the offense up for that. But what excites me the most about him, and it's stark contrast to the offensive coordinator that we had last year that was just atrocious. He adapts his scheme to the talent. He doesn't try to make the talent fit his scheme. If you look back, when he's had a great quarterback like Drake May, they air it out and it's built around that. When he doesn't have a great quarterback, last year he was running with a backup quarterback because I think he had an injury, and he designed it more around a great tight end and running back on Amari and Hampton that they had there. He's able to adapt and play with what we have and be able to fit his scheme to the skills of our best players. That excites me in a large way. And then, of course, Bryce Underwood. I mean, it's hard not to be excited about that kid.
Yeah, no, I get it. My screen messed up a little bit, so I was just fixing it. I don't know if I cut out at all. I think I should be fine, but
on my end, it didn't cut out.
So. Okay, cool. I went to another tab and I was like, "What are we doing?" Okay, cool. Well, my only final question, and then I'll open it up for you, just in case you have any questions for me. You do not have to ask me a single question, but I want to know what it feels like to have your quarterback from your favorite college team get drafted to your favorite NFL team. How was that for you to be like, I've been cheering for this guy, and now I get to continue to cheer for this guy?
So it's kind of a funny situation. So, and a lot of my friends like to give me, or my Michigan friends like to give me grief about it, because I didn't become a Vikings fan because of JJ, but in a way, it kind of helped, and I'll explain why. So, growing up, I was a diehard Michigan fan, but I was never really a fan of a pro team before. I liked players, so like when I lived in Tennessee and I got to go to a lot of the Titans games, I was never truly a Titans fan, but I liked Javon Curse. I liked, Chris Johnson when we had him, Vince Young. But there were other players that I liked too, on different teams. I would just watch the players that I liked, and I would follow the Michigan players that went to the league. And there were the Vikings were always a team that I kind of liked because Vikings is just a cool name. They have awesome uniforms, helmets, the Viking thing.
Yeah.
But I really did. I honestly did like, and I used to go out of my way to watch games with Adrian Peterson, and I really liked Jared Allen. Javon Curse, Jared Allen. I played defensive line in high school, and I loved watching them play. So I always kind of liked watching the Vikings, but I just never felt drawn to a pro team. So after the national championship run, around February or so, after JJ had declared for the draft, a lot of places were immediately projecting him to go to Minnesota, right?
Okay.
So before he ever got drafted, I started to really kind of look into. I was watching, and it wasn't just Minnesota. There was also some projections of him going to Atlanta. So I started looking up podcasts and shows from when I was bored, from the Falcons community and from the Vikings community, just to see what they were saying about the projection of JJ going to their team, right? And with the Vikings community, that's where I found Rap, that's where I found GG Sports Podcast, that's where I found Purple Daily, and a lot of them. And just the community in the chats and the way, and even the podcasters the way that I just felt welcomed in the community, even though I wasn't really a fan. So I found myself watching the shows, even when they weren't talking about JJ, and really kind of getting into the Vikings, going through February and March and becoming a Vikings fan. And then, so it was like draft night. I was sitting there like fingers crossed, like, please let the Vikings take him. When they didn't trade up because they were projected to trade up with the Chargers to get him. And when they didn't, I was like, oh God, I was like, please don't, the Jets don't take him. Atlanta, don't take him. Like, I'm sitting there like literally watching it, like fingers crossed, hoping that they would take him, because I found myself now a fan of this team, and there's my favorite player. And like, I wanted them to take him, and they did. And I was so happy and ecstatic. So I didn't become a Vikings fan because they drafted JJ, but it was kind of because he was projected to him that I found myself becoming a fan.
Yeah, I love it. And before we end here, shout out to Vocal Vike Rap, that whole community, because I agree. The community is amazing. Every time I get a chance, I always shout them out because the community is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So I totally understand the feeling welcomed and all of that, because they are. I think they're an amazing group. So I love them for that. So shout out to them. And then, do you have any questions for me? Do you have anything that you want to ask of me? If not, we'll end this. And if you have a question, I'll answer it. It's totally up to you.
Well, I mean, my biggest question, because I saw the show when you went on Vocal Vike, and I saw you there. That was my first experience watching you. But just, how did you get into this? How did you start the channel and sort of find your lane in this whole thing? As somebody who's kind of fallen backwards into podcasting, like, I'm just learning, so like, what drew you to it, and what have you learned yourself going through it?
That's a great question. So I started because I always talk sports to my group of friends, sports in general, like even growing up, like I was always like, I would be tired at school and I would be like, did you see Kobe's stats last night? Did you? And people were like, we don't really, like, why does she care about this thing? So I've always been fascinated with sports. And then I realized that I loved football more than anything because there's so many more players and there's so many dynamics. And I like hard, complicated things. And so I started realizing I love football. And so my love for football grew in high school, grew in college, and I'm just very fascinated with football. So then what started to happen was I also cheer and support Colorado. And when Coach Prime came, I feel like the content that I was watching before Coach Prime to the content that I was watching after Coach Prime, I started feeling like I connected with YouTubers more than I did anymore with like ESPN, Fox Sports, because I'm like, this stuff seems so scripted and boring and like I don't know these people.
Right.
And so I just started listening and paying attention. And then one day I said to myself, I think I could do this. My perspective is different. And obviously I'm a woman, but I think I could do this. And so I started my channel, didn't know what I wanted to do. If you go back and look at my older videos, some of my videos are just like all over the place. It's like life and this and that. And like, it's all over the place. And then one day I was like, I love football. Like this gives me passion and energy and it makes me excited. And on the weekends, it's so much more fun to watch football when I know I get to make a video about it. And so it like lit something in me. And so that started it. And so now I'm just like in this space and I still have like a full-time job and a part-time job. Like I still have all these things going on. But I always say no matter how tired I am, when I make a video, when I edit a video, when I post on YouTube or when I do these collaborations, I get so much energy. It's crazy how much energy I get. Like I actually get a high from this. And when it's over, I kind of have to come down off of it because I'm like, that was so fun. Like, and then of course, obviously I'm like, and I should have asked, like whatever it is, right? But that's something about that gives me energy and I'm so passionate about it. So that's what started me. And now I'm just like off to the races. I'm like, what do you want to do, girl? Do it, like ask, reach out, do the thing. So
yeah,
I just started it on I think I can do this. And like, here I am, acting like I have it all together.
yeah. Like since I got into the podcasting stuff, like I've had people encourage me to do my own, just, when I have time to do it. And and like, there's times that I want to, there's times like I just want to go live and just talk football.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like, there's like this mental hurdle of like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do it. I don't know if I should. And I know that once I do, I'll be fine. Like
you'll be totally fine.
But I just have to get to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this.
What you're saying is the thing that nobody realizes being a content creator is you are talking to yourself. You're literally looking and you see yourself and you're just talking and you're like, does anybody hear me? What is anybody else? And you can't hear, you can't see body language, you can't see anything. And so I agree with you. It's hard. And that's why like I started doing videos first and just like, I was just talking, literally. If you go watch those videos, I was literally just talking. And now I'm just like, who cares? I've seen people come on camera and I'm, they're doing their best. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. Like, I know my Wi-Fi is better than that. Like, it doesn't even matter what I'm saying. I just know my Wi-Fi like looks better than that. So anyways, if I could give you any advice, I would say just do it. Just hit that button and go. And I always tell people too, if one person is listening to you, one person is enough because that one person is going to be 4 people one day and then 6 people and then 9 people and then 20, it's like, and that's how it is. And you should do the thing. And you're passionate. People see when people are passionate and there's not enough passionate people in my personal opinion. I'm not taking a shot at anybody, but there's just not a lot of passionate people that will just talk about their team. So
yeah,
anyways.
I can talk all day about Michigan, and I'm getting there with the Vikings. Like, Rap wants to bring me on once the season comes in, and so we can rave about JJ in his first start or something like that.
Well, listen, if you do go on there, I'm sure I'll be in the comment section because I'm usually in his comment section on his live. So I love that. Well, thank you for coming on. I will end with you. I know that you have a special cause that you want to mention, and we will put everything in the description below so people can find it very easily. So I want to thank you first for your time, all the things. This is our first conversation. I usually say that at the beginning. I don't know if I did, but this is our first conversation. And I just appreciate the collaboration. I appreciate you sharing your time with me. And I appreciate you just like being lovely when we're communicating. Like probably means nothing to you, but you'd be surprised how many people I've communicated with where I'm just kind of like, all right, it's fine. Like I get it, so anyway, so thank you for that. Thank you for being so gracious. And I'll end whenever you're done. I'll stop recording.
Sure. So the what I've got going on right now, it's a GoFundMe, and it is a GoFundMe for myself. But the situation that I'm in is, I mentioned I lived in Tennessee for a long time, and I now live back in Michigan. And what happened? I'll try to condense it as much as I can. But my mother, who is 74, she was diagnosed a few years back with stomach and lung cancer. She didn't feel comfortable living by herself anymore. And that was in large part the reason I moved back to Michigan. So I moved up here to take care of her. She lives with me, and I try to do what I can for her. Shortly after moving back up here, I was I started having really bad pain in my neck and back. Had some tests done, MRIs, CT scans, and was told by multiple neurosurgeons that I am not allowed to work right now because any impact to my spine, if I were to fall, if I were to jar it, I could instantly have paralyzation or worse. I have to get, and the more that we got into it and started looking at tests, it was very apparent that it wasn't just one issue. I've got issues in my neck, in my lower back, that I have to have multiple spinal surgeries, spinal fusion surgeries. One of my vertebrae is really messed up and has to be worked on. I've got an issue with my hip, with one knee. I already had surgery on my left knee. I got to have it on my right knee, and I've got to have both surgery on both heels underneath the Achilles tendon. In order to get back to working condition, I have to go through all of these. So I'm looking at, on the best estimations, like 6 or 7 years of surgery, recovery, rehab, healing, and then started over with the next one. Right. The back and the neck being the hardest ones. I am currently trying to pursue getting a disability in the meantime to help me get through those surgeries so I can get back to work while trying to take care of my mother. The problem is that the fact that I'm under 40 and to get disability, I have a lawyer that's helping me, but it's just that the state's going to deny it the first 2 or 3 times just to try to weed out the people that are fraudulently trying to get it. Okay. Once it goes to arbitration, I can get it, but it's a long road. So I'm currently, as we sit now in July of this year, I'm looking at best case scenario 3 months from now. Worst case scenario, I'm still looking at another 6 to 8 months. So the guys that I do the podcasting with convinced me to set up a GoFundMe, and the community that we have has been really, really generous and helped us as much as they can. But things are very tight, and trying to keep bills paid so that we have a place to live, have the lights on, have the gas to get to mine and my mother's treatments and appointments, physical therapy, stuff like that. It's just really, really tough. So that's what the GoFundMe is for. I'm happy to be 100% transparent with it. People can reach me on any social media platform at the name that's on the screen, Kinetic 615. I'm happy to, give any information that they have or that they are curious about, they want to know. It's, none of the money gets wasted. It literally gets stretched as thin as possible to keep the lights on. And so I appreciate everybody that shared it out, that's allowed me to, that's put it in their videos. Rap's done it, GG Sports Podcast, Purple Daily, all of the guys in the Michigan community. But just any bit of help, every dollar, every share of the link on, because it just takes the right person one time to see it, to say, hey, I can give, so even just sharing it out, it helps immensely. And I'm just thankful for anyone that even, gives me the time of day to read through and consider it. So
I love it. Well, I appreciate you sharing. And I also think that it's so cool in life whenever you can be a part of somebody help getting what they might need. And so I'm honored to put it in the description. I am honored to take part in anything that I can do and retweet and do all the things. So I think one of the hardest things in life to do is to ask for help and to have to do it consistently. And so I just want to give you kudos for being strong enough to ask for help, being consistent, and trying to take care of yourself, and just doing it. Because I think so many times, we just don't do it. We always think of reasons why we can't do it and why we shouldn't do it and why it's too hard. Yep. And you're just doing it. So thank you for that. And thank you for your courage. And thank you for sharing with me also. And thank you for being here and allowing me to be a part of this journey. No matter how big or small of a piece I am, I'm a part of it. And I just appreciate you still sharing your time with me and Absolutely. Being gracious. So thank you. very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Happy to come on anytime you're doing a project. If you think I'd be an addition to it, let me know. I'd be happy to help and in any way that I can. And yeah, I had to be talked into asking for help. I was always the guy that helped people. I was
Yeah.
always the one that people came to, that I was the one that found ways to solve their problems. And
Yep.
it was a
Now
hard
it's your
thing to
turn.
accept that I couldn't
Now it's
solve
your
this
turn.
problem on my own.
Yes. And that's okay though, because all those problems that you solved are now coming back to help you. So that like it's going exactly how it's supposed to go. So kudos to you. Like don't ever feel that way. Like kudos to you. You give, you receive, you give, you receive. It's a cycle. So now it's your turn to be loved on and supported and guided and all the things that you gave to everybody else. So anyways, I'll end this here, but thank you, and never stop asking for help when you need it, because I think more people should ask when they need it. So thank you.
Yes, yeah. Anytime. I'm happy to help. Happy to be on here.
Awesome.